विष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's a great pleasure to be amongst all of you this evening in the house of Sundareshwar Prabhu Subhash and Sheetal for the very special occasion of the celebration of very important milestones in the lives of Shalvi and Shirom, the 18th and 21st birthdays. Today we was asked to speak on the topic success and lessons from the Ramayan. And it is for the well-being of all of us, and especially for Shirom and Shalvi, that we dedicate this lecture with the prayer that Lord Krishna may kindly bless both of them in every respect and award them all success in life, especially in their spiritual development. I was also speaking on this very same topic yesterday, and perhaps we'll continue this theme tomorrow. Where is the program tomorrow? I think something W. What's the Warrington. So we'll continue with the same theme tomorrow, different examples. Great histories like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are very instructive for all of us. They are not just mythological stories. They are historical narrations in which the Supreme Lord Himself, along with His devotees, plays very important roles. And there are many purposes for which these pastimes are enacted. And one of them is to give us good instruction, so we can learn many lessons from them. And amongst all the different incarnations of God, the incarnation of Lord Ram is special because he teaches by personal example. The other avatars or forms of the Lord also give many instructions, and they also teach by personal instruction, but sometimes they perform activities which may bewilder us. Whereas Lord Ram acted as the perfect human being, and he went through the kind of challenges that human beings go. Perhaps Ram's challenges were more extreme. Having one's wife kidnapped, or being driven away from one's own property and home are not experiences that most people encounter in their day-to-day life. We hear of such instances, but it's not that common. Nevertheless, through such extreme examples, the Lord teaches us how we should live in our life, and specifically what real success is. Generally, we tend to think of success in material terms, in terms of the external results, in terms of how much money we have earned, in terms of how famous we have become, in terms of, let's say, what kind of other accomplishments we have in this world, how much we are able to enjoy this world. So, this is the standard generally that people have in mind of success. And if you have attained any of these, then people say you are a successful person. But the spiritual viewpoint is not that. The spiritual world is a different universe altogether. And the criteria and the standards of measurement are also quite different. Success, according to our scriptures, is not to be seen merely in terms of worldly attainments and accomplishments. It is to be seen primarily in terms of how much we have accomplished in the spiritual field and how much we have trod on the path of dharma, the path of virtue, as opposed to the path of adharma or sinful life. Now, there are many examples by which we can analyze how our everyday conceptions of success and failure don't work out the way they do in the scriptures. Because our vision is different, our vision is material. Let's consider a few examples from the scripture, and particularly from Ramayan, because we've just been through the Ramayan festival a few days ago, and yesterday was Hanuman Jayanti. So it's the theme, it's the season for Ram Leela. Like when you have Krishna's birthday, it's the season for Krishna Leela. So in this way, we see many interesting lessons at different times of the year for us to reflect on. Let's consider, for example, that Lord Ram was in the forest. His wife was kidnapped by Ravana. And as Ravana was carrying away Sita, there she saw the vulture king Jatayu, who also happened to be a friend of King Dasharath, who was very old now, and who was also a great well-wisher of Ram and his devotee. And he was asleep on top of a tree. As Ravana was speeding through the skies, she spotted Jatayu there, and she called out loudly to him to save her. He awoke from his slumber, and he saw Ravana carrying away Sita. He immediately flew and obstructed Ravana. And Ravana was young, he was powerful, and he had weapons. Jatayu was old, feeble, and he had no weapons. But nevertheless, Jatayu put up a tremendous fight, and the likes of which perhaps we don't hardly see anywhere. Jatayu at that time was so old, he was barely able to move. But because of this emergency situation, he got such enormous power. You know, sometimes we see in emergency situations, there's some kind of adrenaline flow that happens and we get some power that we never imagined we would get. So Jatayu was a great devotee and also exceptionally virtuous. He was 60,000 years old. And that's what he declares in the Ramayana. We're talking of the Treta Yuga. And he was old in Treta Yuga, so he came much before that. And he obstructed Ravana. And in the fierce duel, the fierce battle that ensued after that, Jatayu was defeated. But he never gave up. He made life miserable for Ravana. Such a terrible fight. He used his beak, he used his claws, he used his wings, and ultimately he destroyed Ravana's chariot, his carriers, and his weapons. And ultimately Ravana cut off Jatayu's wings, and Jatayu lay there, fallen on the ground, helpless, unable to do anything. And Jatayu told Ravana that don't think you can get away with this, because Ram is nearby and he's going to come and he will get you. So do not do something as lowly as this. You're a king, so you should abide by kingly dharma, royal dharma, which means that you cannot kidnap somebody else's wife like this. When I was speaking on this at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, I was narrating one incident where one devotee in India, who is a businessman, met me one time and he was quite disturbed because he had met, this is several years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, he had met a minister. He was a minister not in the central or federal government, but he was a minister in one of the states. And he said, we were talking about some business matters, and somehow he knew I was a Hare Krishna devotee, and we started talking on spiritual topics. And then he spoke about Ram and Ravan, and he said, you people glorify Ram and criticize Ravan, but what's wrong with what Ravan did? He liked Sita, he lifted her, took her away, so what is the problem? So the fact that a minister could speak like this shocked this devotee so much that normally he's very sharp and worldly wise, but this got him, as you say, I think in America you say gobsmacked, yes? He couldn't say anything. He was speechless. So he came to me later and he said, look, this is what this minister is saying. So I said, you should have asked him, how would you react if somebody kidnapped your wife? And then I said, actually no, don't ask him that, because who knows, he may be happy even. Because that may give him the freedom to do so many things that he couldn't do because his wife was there. Well, such is the nature of of people today who have this tendency, this nature, that you can do anything and get away with it. And everything is okay. So long as you like it, so long as it's within your power, might is right, you do it. What's the problem? But life is not meant to be lived like that. Ravana was successful in abducting Sita, yes, he killed Jatayu. And he brought her to Lanka. But just see what was the consequence of that. So success in a particular endeavor, success in a limited sphere of our life is not necessarily a recipe for happiness or for auspiciousness in life. Unless one's actions are in accordance with dharma, with virtue, whatever success we may achieve, quote-unquote success, will only yield great pain and suffering, as it did for Ravana. Just see the kind of consequences he had to bear, and his whole kingdom had to bear, for his one act of kidnapping Sita Devi. So he used his might, he used his guile, he used his prowess and his intelligence, etc., to do something that was unthinkable. But at the end of it, he was killed, his family members were killed, his entire kingdom was ransacked and destroyed, his entire army practically was destroyed. So what was the result? What is the purpose of doing this? What was the benefit? So if an action is adharmic, it is not in accordance with virtue, and if success comes in the path of adharma, then that success will actually be a failure. it will be the cause of great pain sooner or later. This is a very significant point. And time and again we see this happening in the scriptures. Duryodhan also was apparently successful for some time only in adharma, in preventing the Pandavas from having their rightful share of the property. But eventually what happened? So dharma, the word dharma is very important because it comes from the root dhri, which means to sustain. So dharma has many meanings, many connotations. And one of them is that it is that which sustains the universe. So dharmic activity sustains. And the success that comes from dharmic activity also sustains. Adharma is that which creates lack of harmony. Adharma is that which creates confusion, chaos, suffering. It cannot sustain. And even if such success is attained, it will be short term. And very soon, the terrible consequences of that adharmic success will come. So what is success? What is failure? These are points worth considering. We see in the scriptures numerous examples of people who were materially successful. They might have been great kings as well, great conquerors, but in the next life they got terrible lower births. King Bharat, of course, he was a devotee, he wasn't a sinful person. But somehow or the other, he got a little distracted. This Bharat is not the brother of Ram. He is another Bharat after whom the whole planet was named Bharatvarsha. From Bharat comes Bharat. So he forgot his devotional activities, became attached to a deer, and he had to get the birth of a deer in the next life. And this is for a person who is virtuous, who somehow forgot his path of virtue and became attached to something material. What then to speak of those who lead extremely sinful lives, lives contrary to dharma? What will be their consequence? They may have been millionaires and billionaires and kings and emperors in this world, but if they have not led paths of dharma, eventually they will be destroyed. And all the success will be gone. You know, the Vedic scriptures teach us to see everything from a very long-term point of view, not from a short-term point of view. And therefore success is seen not only from this one life. Success is also seen as to what birth you get in the next life. That is the measure of success. Now, if you tell this to people, mostly because people don't believe in the next birth, so they'll say, well, we don't believe that. It makes no sense to us. But the point is that if as a result of one's so-called success, one becomes an animal or an insect in the next life, what is the meaning of that success? Srila Prabhupada often spoke about this. So one who is virtuous by nature will always seek to tread on the path of virtue, will never get distracted. Let's consider the three brothers, Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishan. Now you all heard of them, and you know they all had different natures. So they lived in Treta Yuga when lifetimes were extremely long. So the three of them, they went to a place called Gokarna, and they performed austerities, it is said, in the Valmiki Ramayana for 10,000 years. Such severe austerities which we cannot even think about in this day and age. You know, in these days, in Kali Yuga, the prana or the life air resides in anna or food. Without food, we can't live even more than 1 day, 2 days. Even if we have fasting for a day, we know how difficult it is. But in earlier ages like Satya Yuga and so on, the prana or the life airs lived within the bone marrow. So even if somebody didn't have food, or even sometimes he didn't breathe, he could survive, as we see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. So anyway, Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishan performed severe austerities. Now even though they were brothers, but they had different mentalities. And they were doing austerity for different purposes. So at the end of 10,000 years, the creator of the universe, Brahma, appeared before them. And he said, I'm very impressed to see your austerities. What benediction or boon do you want? So this is what Ravan was waiting for. He said, I want the boon of immortality, complete victory over death. I should not die. So Brahma said, I'm sorry. That's not possible because even I am not immortal. Even I will die at some point in time. So this is not a boon that I have the power to grant. So ask for something else. So Ravana thought for a moment and said, all right, because he wanted immortality from the back door. If he wasn't going to get it from the front door. So he said, give me immunity from death, from various living entities of the higher planets like the Yakshas, the Nagas, the Rakshasas and so on. As far as human beings and animals on earth are concerned, I consider them like straw on the street, of no consequence. They bear no risk or danger to me. Therefore, I don't worry about them. I'm not asking you for immunity from them. I'm only asking you for immunity from these other categories. So Brahma said, all right, so be it. So Ravana was very pleased. He had evil intentions. His intention was to conquer the whole planet, if not the whole universe, and to oppress everybody else and enjoy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that there are two kinds of people, one the demoniac and the other the divine. Those who are divine are inclined towards virtuous life, and they're always seeking to spread harmony, peace and love everywhere. And they exhibit all sorts of divine qualities like kindness, compassion, forgiveness, love, etc. On the other hand, there are those people who are demoniac. So people who are demoniac are extremely selfish, extremely egotistic, and they're very fond of worldly pleasures, and they want to obtain all sorts of worldly attainments and accomplishments at any cost, even if it means killing other people who are near to them. They don't mind it. They want that material success at any cost. So Ravana was in this second category. So he wanted to have, lordship over the entire universe. And he was very happy when he got this benediction. And then Lord Brahma turned to Vibhishan. So what boon do you want? Vibhishan said, my dear Lord, I am fully satisfied just by seeing you. You are a great personality. Just by looking at you, one's heart gets purified. So what more can I seek from you? I have received your darshan, and that is enough for me. But nevertheless, since you have asked me for a boon, and are so eager to grant me one, I beg of you that you give me the strength, the power, to always walk on the path of virtue or dharma, and never, even in the most difficult and challenging times, to leave the path of dharma. This, I believe, will be the success of my life. So just see, you have two brothers, completely different standards of success in their minds. So what was Ravana's standard? Conquer the whole world, enjoy the whole world as much as you can. And if there's any obstacle in the path, destroy those people who are thorns in your flesh. Whereas Vibhishan says, no, I'm not after kingship and lordship and enjoyment of this world. For me, success means to walk on the path of truth. to walk in the path of dharma. Brahma was impressed. Then he turned to the third brother, Kumbhakarna. Now when Brahma turned to Kumbhakarna, the demigods who were accompanying Brahma became alarmed because they had already seen the boon that Ravana had got. And they whispered to Brahma and said, "My dear Lord, the boon that you have given to Ravana will make him practically unconquerable. He will become so powerful that even we demigods will not be able to defeat him. We will not even be able to stand in front of him." And now his third brother, or rather his second brother, Kumbhakarna, is also inclined to evil. If you grant him this benediction, then he will definitely use it for the same purposes that Ravana has. Kumbhakarna is already extraordinarily powerful. And now, if you give him a benediction that he seeks, then he will definitely create havoc in the whole world, in the whole universe. Therefore, kindly bewilder his mind in such a way that he asks you for a benediction that is harmless. So Brahma reflected for a moment. So he summoned his good wife. Who is the wife of Brahma? Saraswati, who is the goddess of learning and the goddess of speech. So she said, "Yes, what can I do?" So he said, "Please sit on the tongue of Kumbhakarna and speak what is appropriate for the purposes of the demigods." So she said, "Fine." So she went and sat on the tongue of Kumbhakarna, and then Brahma came to Kumbhakarna and said, "So my dear Kumbhakarna, what benediction do you want?" And immediately, straight from the mouth of Kumbhakarna came some word. The word was Nidratvam. I want to sleep. I want the benediction that I will be able to sleep and sleep and sleep for a long time. Actually, what Kumbhakarna wanted to say was Nirdevatvam. That means let there be annihilation of all the demigods. Another version says that he wanted to ask for Nityatvam. Nitya means eternal life. So he also wanted to ask for immortality. So in the effort of asking Nityatvam or Nirdevatvam, there was a slip of the tongue. But little did he know that that slip of the tongue was done by Saraswati Devi, the goddess of speech and learning, sitting on his tongue. We all make slips of the tongue, isn't it? Sometimes we make embarrassing slips of the tongue. We say so many things, something comes out of the mouth, we intended to say something, and something else comes out of the mouth. It happens sometimes. So as soon as Kumbhakarna made this slip of the tongue, Brahma lost no time in saying Tathastu, I grant you the benediction. Before he could change his mind and before he could realize what blunder he had committed. And immediately Brahma left with the demigods before Kumbhakarna could realize what had happened. And then Kumbhakarna came to his senses and slapped his forehead and said, "My God," of course, I don't think he said God, he didn't believe in God. Whatever it is that he said, "What did I ask for? How could this happen? I asked for long sleep? I never even dreamt of such a thing. I wanted eternal life, not sleep. But somehow this word came out of my mouth and Brahma has granted me this. And now I have no choice but to sleep. And if I want to change that, again I have to perform penances for 10,000 years and get another boon from Brahma." So we see that each person has his or her own standard of what constitutes success in life. According to our inclinations, according to our leanings towards dharma or adharma, we will have our own conceptions of success. So see Vibhishan's standard. Vibhishan was so clear And therefore, and they were building a bridge, or they were just about to start building the bridge across the ocean to reach Lanka. Ravana called all his ministers, his commanders of the army, and so on. And then he asked for advice. And at that time, Vibhishan was the only one who gave him sound advice, that he should tread on the path of dharma and return Sita Devi to Lord Ram. Actually, Kumbhakarna also said something similar. Kumbhakarna also reprimanded his brother. And he said, "My dear brother, before you kidnapped Sita, you never asked us. You should have asked me and I would have forbidden you from doing such a thing. But now you have created this mess. You have kidnapped Sita, and now Ram is standing on the other edge of the other end of this ocean, waiting to come here and attack. And now you are asking us what should be done." But anyway, so to that degree, he said, I do not approve of your acts, but nevertheless, you are my brother. And since you are my brother, it is my bounden duty to help you. So do not worry, O brother. So long as Kumbhakarna is alive, you are in no danger. So, to some degree, Kumbhakarna was speaking sense, but then his material attachment for his brother took the better of him, and then he said, "Never mind, what you have done is right." Many of the other generals of Vibhishan, of Ravana, were telling him, "Yes, you are right. After all, you are the most powerful personality in the whole of creation. So everything that you have done is quite perfect. Don't worry." And so they were egging him on. They were all yes men. You're familiar with the term yes man, right? A yes man is a person who will always tell you yes, yes, yes. Whatever you say, yes, yes, yes. There is this little joke about this person who was a yes man in the office. So the colleagues used to pull his leg and say, "You are just a yes man." So he protested and said, No, I'm not a yes man. When the boss says no, I also say no. I'm a no man. So, it's not good to be surrounded by yes men. It's always nice to have people around us who will tell us the truth. They are our real well-wishers. Sometimes the truth may be a little bitter, hard to swallow, but it is for our welfare, it is for our good. And a truly intelligent person doesn't hold grudges against a well-wisher who speaks harsh words intended for one's welfare. But only a person with certain divine tendencies will be able to think like this. Because nobody likes to be told their own faults. Nobody likes to be corrected. Even children don't like, little children, babies don't like to be corrected. And by the time you grow up, the ego has grown so much that you can't tolerate anybody finding fault. So finding fault is something we cannot tolerate. If somebody finds fault with us, it's very hard to tolerate. So in any case, so we must always have people around us who will tell us what is right and what is wrong. And Vibhishan was one such well-wisher of Ravana. He was also fearless. And he told Ravana, "You've made a big blunder. There is still time. So why don't you just do what is right and return Sita to Ram?" And he went on speaking about Ravana's misdemeanors, and he reprimanded him in a loving way. Ravana became infuriated. He was enraged like anything. Chanakya says that giving someone who is demoniac good instruction only inflames his anger. It is like feeding poisonous milk to a poisonous serpent. that only increases the poisonous power of that serpent. So Ravana became enraged and he said, "It's only because you're my brother that I am letting you go alive from here today. So immediately leave my kingdom and you go away from here." So the harsh words of Ravana pierced Vibhishan's heart, and he realized that Ravana was destined for death. He realized that Lanka was destined for destruction and that all hell would break loose in a short time. But the writing was on the wall. He knew this would happen, so he left. He left his brother and came to take shelter of Lord Ram. So Ravana's idea of success was that he should do what he liked and he should have people around him who would try to help him to achieve that. But Vibhishan stuck to the path of dharma. He had this benediction he had asked from Brahma: "Give me the strength to stand by dharma even in the most difficult circumstances." And he did so, even at the risk of his life. Nobody likes to be removed from a position of power. He was, after all, a prince under Ravana. Had he sided with Ravana, and had Ravana not got killed, he would have enjoyed so much of prosperity and power in Lanka. But he wasn't concerned about that. So therefore he took the path of dharma, and that was Vibhishan's success. Eventually, of course, Vibhishan became the king because he took shelter of Lord Ram, and after Lord Ram had killed Ravana, then he installed Vibhishan as the king of Lanka. So success is something that we see from the point of dharma or adharma, not merely from the point of view of worldly accomplishments. And this is the theme which I started to speak on. Coming next to dealing with success. How does one deal with the material or even spiritual success that one may have? There is a question of being noble, gracious in defeat and noble in victory or success. Noble in success, gracious in failure. That is what our scriptures teach us. After Ravana had been killed by Ram, Vibhishan was very furious with his brother, because it was only because of Ravana's foolishness and arrogance that such devastation had been caused. So many millions of soldiers had died. So many ladies had become widows for no reason. So he said to Ram that he doesn't deserve to be cremated. Let him just die. His body just remain here and let the vultures just take it. He was so angry with Ravan. But Ram said, no. See, whatever it may be, we have issues with him. He performed a very sinful act of stealing my wife. And he also similarly stole many other people's wives. He forced himself upon many women. And he did many, many other things that were highly objectionable as per dharma. But nevertheless, we should give him the due honors in death. So perform his cremation rites with due honor. So Ram was noble. He gave the credit due. This was the Kshatriya code of conduct, you see. So when soldiers fight, two armies fight, according to the code of conduct, when the enemy dies, you even may give him a decent cremation or a burial. So Ram was noble even in his victory. We also see how Sita was noble. After Ravana had been killed, Ram sent Hanuman once again to Sita. Now you all know the storyline of the Ramayan, that it was Hanuman who actually jumped over the ocean and came to Lanka, to the Ashok Vatika, the garden of Ashoka trees, where Sita had been kept captive by Ravana. And he approached her incognito secretly, and finally he won her confidence. She began to trust him. Initially she was suspicious of who this monkey was, but later she trusted him, and he gave her Lord Ram's ring. And then she understood that this was a well-wisher. And she refused to go back with Hanuman. Hanuman said, I will take you on my shoulder. I will jump across the sea and go back to Ram. She said, no. Proper justice must be done. And Ram must come here and rescue me. So Hanuman went back, but before that he created havoc in Lanka, as you know. And then after the battle was over, then Ram asked him to go once again to see Sita and to escort her and bring her to where he and Lakshmana were. So as Hanuman came there, he saw Sita Devi, who had no idea what had happened in the battle. She was there in the Ashoka Vatika. She was surrounded by these female demonesses, these Rakshasis, who had been appointed by Ravana to guard Sita. So somehow when these demonesses were a little inattentive or they were away here and there, he again approached Sita. And he said, these demonesses have caused you so much harm. They have tortured you mentally, put you in such a state of fear and anxiety. Just say the word and I will destroy them all. Ram has already killed Ravana and his army. And these demonesses who have caused you so much pain, I will ensure that they are killed. So Sita looked at Hanuman and said, no, Hanuman, they are merely doing the bidding of their master. What is their fault? They are just faithful servants. And because they have caused pain to me, when I was in difficulty, now when I am successful, when I have achieved my objective of getting freedom from the clutches of Ravana, why should I give them pain? Evil should not be returned with evil. And she said, Hanuman, let me tell you a story. So Hanuman was all ears. So Sita said, one time there was a hunter and he was wandering in the forest. And it so happened that a tiger started chasing him. So he fled for his life. And somehow he came upon a tree. He quickly climbed the tree to save himself and went to the top. And this tiger could not climb the tree. So the tiger waited down, looking up expectantly, hoping that somehow or the other this man would fall down or in some way he would come down to the ground. Now it so happened that the tree on which this hunter had climbed was also the residence of a bear. And this bear was living there, and as soon as the human being, this hunter, came up, the bear was astonished. The bear was in deep slumber, and suddenly he woke up and found, who's this? He saw the hunter. And then the tiger spoke to the bear. And the tiger said, my dear bear, you are an animal, I am an animal. So we are friends. But this person is a human. The human beings are our enemies. So let's cooperate. This hunter is my food. So please push him down. And when he falls down, I'll make a good meal of him. And then I promise you, I will give you all protection and help when you need it in the forest. So we should cooperate because we are all animals. We're part of the animal family. So the bear said, no, how can I do that? This hunter, this human being, has taken shelter of my home. He has come here seeking my protection. I cannot betray his trust and his faith. I cannot do this. So he went back to sleep, the bear. Now the tiger was still hopeful, he was hungry. So he was also very cunning. So he thought of a way out. So he told the hunter, let's strike a deal. You have to be careful of people who strike deals, Cutting deals in this world in your relationships is always a very tricky thing. Yes? So he told the hunter, "Psst, psst, my dear human being, just listen. He's sleeping, the bear. Let's have an agreement. You push the bear down. When the bear falls to the ground, I'll make a meal of him. I will satisfy my hunger. And then in return, I will promise you protection. I will ensure that you go to the end of the forest and I'll be your escort, your security guard. So no harm will come to you. That is my promise to you." So the human, being a human, what did he do? Push the bear. Talk of gratitude. Yes? A rare virtue in these days. Being grateful for what somebody does for us. So he pushed the bear. Now the hunter and the bear were on a branch that was much higher up on the tree. So as the bear was falling from the higher branches, he woke up all of a sudden. He gathered his senses together, realized what was happening, and he extended his hand and clung on to some branches that were below, but still above the ground. And he hauled himself up onto the tree again. So he didn't fall to the ground. And then again, after the tiger was eagerly watching the developments on the tree. So then he told the tiger this time, he told the bear, I beg your pardon, "My dear bear, just see. Didn't I warn you about human beings? This is how human beings are. Most ungrateful. You gave him shelter, you refused to push him down, but when you were sleeping, he pushed you down. So therefore, let's make a deal again. You push him down to me, and I will ensure you protection." And the bear stuck to his guns. He says, evil cannot be returned with evil. Even if one attains one's objective, one should not, in one's success, or in one's glory, or one's happiness, return evil with evil. So Sita looked at Hanuman and said, "Therefore, O dear Hanuman, just because these Rakshasis, these demonesses, have acted in this way towards me, it doesn't mean I should return evil with evil. Now, yes, I have attained my objective of becoming free from the clutches of that demon Ravana. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that I will bear rancor and grudges, and I will want these Rakshasis to be killed." So in this way, Hanuman was educated very nicely. A very important lesson for all of us actually in this world, because we're always going to be faced with situations. When we are successful, people are always going to be nice to us. The test is when we are not successful. Who are your friends when you encounter failures in life? An example, a saint one gave an example of ants and sugar. You keep 1 grain of sugar and you'll get 100 ants coming out of nowhere. But take away the sugar and the ants disappear. No one knows where they come from and where they disappear to. They go away. So similarly, success brings many friends, many people who want to be close to you. And failure, in times of failure, somehow these friends disappear. Where do they go? So human societies see such things. So from scriptures like the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, from our scriptures, our holy teachings, we understand not only what real success of life is in terms of the spiritual world, but we also understand what is success in terms of worldly dealings. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, our prism or lens through which we view success is not just worldly accomplishment. If we follow in the footsteps of Vibhishan, of Ram, of Sita, of Hanuman, who tread the path of virtue no matter what, then we will be truly successful in our life. Yeah, in yesterday's lecture, I was talking about Ram. Just see, he was successful in every respect, just on the verge of being announced or anointed as the crown prince of Ayodhya. And at the very last moment, everything changed. And he was sent into exile for 14 years, wearing tree bark. He lost his kingdom for 14 years. He lost all the luxuries and comforts and the prestige of the royal palace. And wearing tree bark, he had to live for 14 years eating roots and berries, bearing the cold and the heat and the rain of the forest. He could not enter into any town or any city. He had to withstand the trouble given by so many demons and wild animals and so on. But he bore it without complaint, because he understood that it was important for him to keep the dharma of his father. His father had given a vow, and the vow had to be kept at any cost. Today, generally, people don't keep their word. In the early days, people needn't have written contracts. Nowadays, the legal profession is thriving because people have lost trust. And even with documentation, people still violate the agreement. And therefore, you have to go to court, and then so much happens after that. But actually, according to our scriptures, once we give our word to somebody, we should never break it. Even if breaking it means a lot of discomfort to us, a lot of pain to us. Because there is a value in what we say. So Ram was Satyavakyaha. Always spoke the truth. He was Dharmagya. He always followed Dharma. He knew the intricacies of Dharma and he followed it in all respects. He was Gunaman. He was endowed with all auspicious qualities. So therefore, when the time came for him to be detached from his kingdom, he did not have any qualms. In fact, everybody else tried to convince him to not leave the kingdom. All the citizens said, we will come with you to the forest and let Bharat and Kaikai stay alone in Ayodhya and rule an empty kingdom without humans and animals. And we will form our kingdom in the forest. Dasharath Maharaj even went to the extent of telling his son, please imprison me. Please forcibly occupy the throne. I have, out of helplessness, had to give this vow, this keep my word to my queen, Kaikeyi. And she has asked for these two boons. I have no choice. I have to go the path of Dharma. But you don't have to obey. You don't have to obey. You just take over forcibly because it's your right. And actually the Praja, the citizens of Ayodhya loved Lord Ram. Every single individual. But he didn't budge. Yesterday I was citing the example of a king, a Mughal emperor in India in the medieval ages whose name was Aurangzeb. And Aurangzeb's father was Shah Jahan, who was the emperor at that time. And he wanted the throne, Aurangzeb. So he conspired with his brother, one of his brothers, to imprison their father. So they went all the way to Delhi, which was the headquarters, the capital, and they had a coup. They captured their father, imprisoned him. And he had another brother called Dara Shikoh, who was actually a very learned person. And Aurangzeb killed him. And then he killed also the brother who had helped him to imprison his father and helped him to kill the other brother. And finally, when all his brothers were killed, his father was imprisoned. Now that all the thorns in his path had been removed to success, he sat on the throne. So just see, the lure of the throne, the lure of material success is so powerful that people are willing to kill their brothers and imprison their fathers. Sometimes they kill their fathers even. And history is full of such instances. But Lord Ram never did that. He didn't go for this kind of success. He didn't think that in order to attain the throne of Ayodhya, he should perform something that was basically adharma, something that was against virtue and civilized and cultured behavior. So therefore, for us as human beings, we always have to balance these two. Yes, there are many temptations in life, many aspirations that we all have in life. But if we keep dharma or virtue foremost in our mind, that will be our true success. And for success, it doesn't matter whether you have very great capability or whether you're a small person. You've all heard of the story of the squirrel and Hanuman. Some people say it's another monkey. This pastime doesn't appear in Valmiki Ramayan, neither does it appear in the Ramcharitmanas, but it's a part of popular folklore, and it's there in one of the Ramayans in the Telugu language called Ranganath Ramayana. But anyway, it's a very popular story. So the story goes as follows, that when the monkey army of Lord Ram was building this bridge across the ocean, the powerful monkeys were lifting huge boulders and sometimes the tops of mountains, and they were throwing it into the sea. And these boulders were floating by Lord Ram's mystic potency. And the bridge was being built at a very rapid pace. And as the monkeys were going back and forth, they saw one squirrel. And the squirrel was coming in the way. And he said, "Hey squirrel, come on, move out of the way. Don't you see we're busy here? We're doing some very big job. We're building a bridge across the sea for Lord Ram. And you're just a disturbance here, in a hurry to carry these big stones, we might crush you under our feet. So please move aside." The squirrel said, No. I also want to join you in this glorious task of serving Ram. I also want to participate in building this bridge. But squirrel, you're such a tiny creature. What can you do? What can you lift to build a bridge? The squirrel was just taking grains of sand and perhaps at the most a few pebbles and putting them there in the bridge. And the monkey started laughing. What are you going to do building a bridge? Is your effort going to be of any value? Is it of any consequence? What difference is it going to make for this bridge, which is so huge? So the squirrel was undaunted. At that time, Lord Ram came on the scene. And he was very kind and compassionate to the squirrel. He picked up the squirrel very gently in his hands, and he stroked it with his 3 fingers. And it is said that's how the squirrel from that day on got 3 white stripes on its back. I think you call it chipmunk here? Yeah. Chipmunk or squirrel. So, and then he explained to the monkeys. He said, look, you are doing a humongous service, lifting these huge boulders and mountains and preparing the bridge across the sea, something quite unprecedented. And you have the power to do it. So you're doing it because you have that power. The squirrel doesn't have the kind of power you have. You are extending yourself to 100% of your strength. And the squirrel is extending itself to 100% of its strength. Even though the strength of the squirrel is no match for your strength, but both of you are doing 100% of what you have. For the right purpose, you're both working for me. You're working for my purpose, for my pleasure. Therefore, in my opinion, O monkeys, this squirrel is as successful in its life as you are. I do not see success and failure only in external terms. I do not see only that you have put so many mountains and rocks over here. Yes, I'm happy and pleased with your service, but I'm equally pleased with this squirrel. And ultimately, O monkeys, please know that the strength that you have, and the strength that the squirrel has, however minute it may be, also comes from me. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, Buddhir Buddhimatam Asmi. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. Tejas Tejas Vinamaham. I am the prowess of the powerful. He also says, Balam Balavitam Chaham. I am the strength of the strong. So wherever we see strength, we should know that that strength is ultimately coming from the original reservoir of strength. That's the Supreme Lord. Wherever we see intelligence, we should know that it is coming from the reservoir of intelligence. That is the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna or Sri Ram. Even when there are people with less strength or less intelligence, even that little strength or little intelligence comes from the Lord. So He is the original reservoir of all these great qualities of strength, intelligence, etc. And it is He who distributes this, who imparts this to different living entities according to their karma. So some people acquire enormous physical strength and some people don't. Some people acquire enormous intelligence, some people don't. Regardless of whether we have more or less of these material qualifications, the important point, as Lord Ram teaches in this story, is that we should use it for the right purpose. Therein lies our success. Use it for the Lord's service, whether it's less or more. One may have 10 rupees, 10 pounds, you say pounds here. One may have 10 pounds, or one may have £1,000,000. Never mind. Use it for the Lord's service. One may be a champion wrestler or a boxer, one may be a weakling. Whatever we have, use it for the Lord's service. And the second thing he says, do it in a spirit of service. Do it to please me. And thirdly, don't become proud. He saw the dear monkeys, just because you have so much power, don't become proud. Ultimately, know this power is mine. It's coming from me. Don't be proud of borrowed plumes. Yes, there's a saying, there's a proverb like that. If a bird takes on the feathers of the peacock and says, I'm so beautiful, somebody else will say, it's not your beauty, you borrowed the plumes of the peacock. It's actually the peacock that is very beautiful. So therefore, one must serve. It doesn't matter, whether we have less or more. You see, external accomplishments usually seem very spectacular. And people are dazzled by some exceptional display of power or intelligence or wealth or something. We human beings get very impressed very easily by some small display of some opulence in this world. But the Lord is not impressed by these things. The Lord is not impressed by our money. He is not impressed by our name and fame. He is not impressed by our power, our intelligence. He is only impressed by our devotion. He is only impressed by the kind of divine qualities that we have acquired. He is only impressed when we walk on the path of Dharma. That is true success in the eyes of God. And that will ensure ultimately a life of immortality to us. The boons that Ravana and Kumbhakarna were seeking, Nityatvam, eternal life, can be obtained not by being demoniac as Ravana and Kumbhakarna were, but by being dharmic like Vibhishan was. So that is our real success in life. And worldly success will follow. Where one follows the path of Dharma, worldly success will also come. And if by chance it doesn't come, one accepts that as the Lord's grace. The very last verse of the Bhagavad Gita is Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurtharaha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Sanjaya, the secretary of Dhritarashtra, says, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, wherever there is his great devotee Arjuna who holds the Gandiva bow, there will always be morality, opulence, victory, and success. So if we take shelter of God and walk his path, and if we are not going to be influenced too much by the worldly current around us, then the Lord will consider us successful, and that is the only real success that one should worry about. Other success or failure will come in accordance with our karma. Our success and failure, our happiness and distress, our fame and infamy, honor and dishonor, wealth or poverty, will all come according to destiny. Destiny is nothing but the results of our previous karma that fructify in this life. That's all. So why worry and struggle so much against our destiny? Rather, let us focus in doing the right thing and attaining the right kind of success. So walking the path of dharma, walking the path of devotion to God, doesn't mean that one is neglectful of worldly duties and of worldly accomplishments. And therefore one may do very well in one's worldly life. Shirom will now become a doctor very shortly, right? How long to go? 3 years more? Yes, you can become an excellent doctor. Walking the path of dharma doesn't mean that you can't be successful materially, or that you should not be a good doctor. On the contrary, you should become a good doctor. You should utilize the principles of dharma to be an excellent doctor. Yes? Then your path will be, your life will be doubly successful. And Shalvi, what are you studying? Last year of school. Okay, so whatever you choose to do later on in life, whether it's one type of field or another type of field, it doesn't matter. You will choose your field according to your interest, which is fine. But if you both tread the path of dharma and consider the path of virtue and the path of devotion to God to be the ultimate success, then your life will be successful, and you will also help others who come in contact with you to be successful. So today let us pray to Lord Ram and to Lord Krishna to offer their blessings to these two wonderful young people here whose birthday we are celebrating. Of course, the birthday was not today, right? Last week and next week's. Yeah, something like that. But nevertheless, we have gathered here today to offer our good wishes to them, and we pray to the Lord that they may kindly bless them with all auspiciousness and all success in life. And also to your parents, thank you for hosting us today. And finally to all of you who have come here for this program, thank you for coming, and thank you for your kind and patient attention to this program. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We can have questions if you wish. Please feel free to ask any questions. You can ask from wherever you are sitting. Yes.
You mentioned that all strength comes from the Lord.
Yeah, I think there is a mic that's coming to you.
You did mention that all strength
I
comes.
think it's not on yet. Just so that everybody can hear your question.
It was inspiring about this children.
Okay, you can just speak without the mic and I'll repeat the question. Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm there. Yeah. You did mention about that story about the squirrel, and that all the strength comes from the Lord, then why are people like Ravana created in the first place? Why does he give his strength indirectly through Brahma and all of these to these vicious people as well? Because he can direct the strength towards more sort of divine sort of virtues and other things in people to make the world a better place to live in.
Right.
And it's more demonic these days, as we can all see anyway. So
Right.
where is his strength going at this point in time?
Right. You see, according to the Bhagavad Gita, there are two universes or two worlds. One is the material world in which we stay. And beyond this material world is the spiritual world. This material world is created, it is maintained, and it's destroyed cyclically. This goes on eternally. But beyond this ever-changing material world, there is an eternal realm, a spiritual world, which is called Vaikuntha in Sanskrit, the kingdom of God. And we as eternal spiritual sparks are meant to be in that spiritual atmosphere. That is our real home. But somehow or the other, we have misused our free will and independence to come into this material world where everything is temporary. This material world has been designed to be temporary and to give distress. One could compare this material world with a prison. So why does a prison exist? Because there will always be people in any given society who will have some criminal inclinations and who will perform some crime. So if such criminals are allowed to remain freely in the society, there will be no justice and they will continue to create further chaos in the society. So therefore, there is a separate arrangement made for them where separate laws hold. Their freedom is severely restricted and they also endure some punishment for their crime for the purpose of rectification. So similarly, this material world is meant for those souls who want to be rebellious, who want to be independent of the Lord. And since such a thing is not feasible in the spiritual world, so an arrangement has been made for us rebellious souls here in this prison house of the material world. So here in the material world, it is a natural position of living entities to be adharmic, not divine. Just as when somebody is in prison, then you understand that he's there because he has some criminal nature. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there. So the fact that we are here in this material world means that we have this nature to a lesser or a greater degree. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in this material body undergoing this cycle of birth and death. So it's like a hospital, let's say. When you go into a hospital, what are you going to see? Sick people. But gradually there's a process of recuperation. So also, in this material world, if one follows the process that is given by God Himself, by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, by Lord Ram in the Ramayana, and so on, the process of how to live in this world honorably, according to Dharma, then we will attain success, we will get freedom from the cycle of birth and death, and we will go back to the spiritual world. So by default, the mental condition of living entities in this material world is that of Ravana. Many Ravanas. Ravana is an extreme case. So we have that tendency. We also have a divine tendency in us. So we have this competition that's going on in our heart. So the Lord fulfills the desires of all the living entities because we wanted to be independent of Him. So He granted us that freedom. He gave a special facility for us. It's not that he's happy with this. Because you see, the ultimate relationship between the soul and God is one of love. And love cannot be forced. You cannot hold a gun to somebody's head and say, love me. So the Lord is all powerful. He can make all of us love him if he wants, just by a click. But what's the fun? If the living entities do not voluntarily submit themselves to his service out of voluntary love, then it doesn't make sense. So the Lord leaves us in this material world to act in a way that we choose, but he gives us good instruction. And he told Arjuna, I have given you all the good instructions now, Arjuna, but yathechasi tatha kuru. Now you do as you choose. Just like you see, when a child grows up, then he's still your child. Now you can't treat a grown-up child like you treat a small child. Grown-up child will have his or her own mind and thoughts, and they will do what they want to do. But if you think they're doing something wrong, you can give them good advice. Tell them, look, this is your life, and this is our experience. We have seen life. And if you do this, these will be the consequences. If you do that, that will be the consequence. Please think carefully and decide. So you give them the choice, and they will use their good intelligence to decide what they want to do. So similarly, after speaking Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the choice to Arjuna. Now you decide, Arjuna, which path you want to follow. So we have the Ravana within us, we have the Vibhishan within us. We have both. So if we stick to the company of people who are divine in nature, who are very keen to follow the path of divinity, then the Vibhishan in us will become stronger. The Ravan in us will become weaker. But if we constantly associate with materialistic people, then the Ravana in us will become stronger and the Vibhishan will become weaker. Okay?